In our first story, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has fought off claims the Bank of Ghana's collapse of some indigenous banks was a witch hunt, explaining government's only interest had been to ensure depositors' funds are safe. Well, already there have been suggestions in the wake of the collapse of some 7 indigenous banks in the past year that the regulator has not dealt fairly with the shareholders. Dr. Kwabnadofor has already filed a legal action against the Bank of Ghana over the revocation of the license of Unibank. Ms. Ofori-Atta, who was contributing to a forum on the banking crisis organized by the Dankwa Institute, said government is only interested in having a strong financial sector. And there's more in the following report.
There was a lot of frank talk by the panelists about the severity of what had happened in a country's financial sector.
You are banned from giving contracts to them unless the contracts are on completely commercial terms. And so if your son's company is providing services to the bank, you can't give it to them on preferential terms. They can't charge you more than the market will charge you. And if you do that, you have sinned against the law. You should go to jail. Why are we having a long discussion on this?
Deputy Finance Minister Charles Edubwai says government had no choice but to allow the cleanup of the rot as it was negatively impacting the economy.
But when people start creating capital out of thin air in order to get a license, then you have transcended the realm of banking and you're now in the realm of magic, you know. And then it becomes a problem because if you start a whole bank on the premise of thin air, there's no way you can do any banking. So it just becomes a downward spiral from day one. That for me is a Ponzi scheme, and it should be seen as that.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta explained the revocation of the licenses of the insolvent banks was done with the full backing of government.
This clearly should not be about witch hunting, but about cleaning the system. There's no need to create panic in the economy. We have it under control. We are confident that we'll be able to emerge out of this much stronger and more robust sense of financial services in this country.
Private legal practitioner Ace Anan Nkrumah has meanwhile cautioned any attempt at prosecuting those culpable that is not well thought through could backfire with serious ramifications.
I know enough to know that white-collar issues and white-collar crimes are some of the most difficult to prosecute. If you make a mistake and you lose one, you've lost your mojo. So what Mueller and what he's doing in the US, slowly, very slowly. But when he hits, he files 18 charges, knowing that even one can take you to jail for 10 years.
He also explained the pro-parliament is contemplating could end up being a talk shop that may expose the suspected wrongdoers, but harm any chance of having them prosecuted.
There's some rule which seems to suggest that if there's an inquiry, a commission of inquiry, I believe under Article 258, the witnesses then get immunity. If you remember the Ghana 50 case, that we only discovered immunity after the case for the prosecution has closed. Then one becomes very worried when Parliament is getting involved in these matters. And if Parliament is going to do it, we need a public inquiry.
Deputy Finance Minister Charles Edubwai described as troubling the tendency for BOG officials to end up as shareholders of commercial banks because of the ethical issues it presents.
There are conflicts. There are various issues of conflicts and moral hazards. I mean, if I was a regulator, you understand what I'm saying, I might decide to withhold somebody's license because he came and showed me his business plan and he was going to do the same type of banking that I would like to do when I leave. And so therefore I might impede his progress or refuse him a license and then turn around and use his same business plan once I get out of the bank to set up my own bank. And it's happened before in the past.
So how do you address it going forward?
You put it in the law. I think right now it's there. I think, if you're a governor, you can't own a bank or be a shareholder in a bank for 5 years after you leave the governorship.
It's not clear, though, to what extent the BOG and government intend to enforce this law.
Let's do another story now. The former chairman of the Electoral Commission of Ghana says that Ghana's electoral system is robust enough to avoid cheating without detection. Dr. Kwejo Afarijan says the EC has developed an electoral system which is transparent with inbuilt integrity that makes cheating impossible. He concluded political parties are now believing that elections are really won or lost at the polling station due to the credible system put in place. Dr. Kojo Afarajan was speaking at the Accra Dialogue organized by Media General.
Electoral system is robust in the extent to which it can prevent cheating by politicians and voters, as well as deliberate wrongdoing by election officials. In my view, the EC has gone a long way towards creating a transparent electoral system with inbuilt integrity such that it is virtually impossible to cheat without detection. Let me briefly describe the characteristics of the system in 4 steps. 1. Political parties are given representation at every key point in the electoral process, including voter registration, ballot printing, transportation of sensitive materials, and voting. 2. The overall outcomes of the system are verifiable. That is to say, we can ascertain the authenticity of the outputs of the various processes, and we can trace any misdeed to the point where it occurred. 3. There is always an audit trail of election materials as they are moved from the head office through the regions to the districts and to the polling stations. And 4, during elections, there are clear guidelines as to valid and invalid votes. The counting of votes is done at every polling station in the presence of the agents of the candidates. The results are certified by the presiding officer as well as the agents of the candidates, each of whom gets a copy of the certified results. And then the results are publicly declared at the polling station. So, moderator, in a meaningful sense, that is the end of the election. Because from then on, what happens is simply adding up the votes obtained by each candidate in all the polling stations in the respective constituency. Any mistake or wrongdoing committed in the vote collation process are detectable and correctable. That is why the Commission has said time and again that under our electoral system, elections are won or lost at the polling stations and not in the Commission's offices. And I think the political parties now believe it, judging from the way they are trying to organize themselves at the polling station level. Again, it is possible for a well-organized party to know from the polling station results of the agents how it is faring.
Well, let's look at some education stories. And the Ministry of Education is asking technical universities across Ghana to stick to their mandate by introducing additional technical and technology-based programs to serve the manpower needs of the country. According to the ministry, technical universities that go outside the remit of their mandate would be in breach of the act that established them. Richard Kojanyako has more in the following report.
According to the Minister of Education, its office is collaborating with the Office of the President to quickly constitute the Governing Council of the Cape Coast Technical University for a smooth running of the university. In a speech read on his behalf by Dr. Emmanuel Newman, the minister urged the university to explore varying options that have the potential to create employment for the teeming youth.
To achieve the purpose for establishing technical universities, each technical university must endeavor to stick to its mandate, that of providing higher education in engineering, science and technology-based disciplines, technical vocational education and training, applied arts and related disciplines, and ensuring that such education is made equally accessible to all persons suitably qualified and capable of benefiting from education and training offered at the technical universities. In fact, this is what the law establishing the technical universities, the Technical Universities Act 2016, Act 922 clearly states.
The Technical University appealed to government to grant them a warrant to increase their staff strength after several appeals have not yielded results. Member of the Interim Management Committee of the university, Dr. Ernest Nyankson, says the absence of the required number of qualified personnel infrastructure could easily undermine the success of the technical universities as they strive to work within their mandates.
We know that government is making efforts to help us increase the staff strength. For example, last year, we received the warrants to employ 10 additional staff. Indeed, we appreciate the allocation. Our only worry is that the allocation was woefully inadequate. It filled just about 5% of our staffing needs. We therefore wish to make a passionate appeal to the government through the representative of the Honorable Minister of Education to consider our plight and come to our aid.
Richard Kwejonya-Ako, JoyNews, Cape Coast.
Now, a baseline study conducted by the Community Development Alliance has revealed that several state officials are involved in the smuggling of subsidized fertilizer to neighboring Burkina Faso. Now, Executive Director of the local non-governmental organization, Salifu Isifu Canton, is worried that this practice won't stop until the government conducts a thorough audit into the program. Rafiq Salam reports this from Wa.
The fertilizer subsidy program, launched in 2015, aimed at enhancing food production and security. The program targets smallholder farmers cultivating maize, rice, sorghum, and millet with priority on food crop, and farmers registered under recognized companies, as well as cotton farmers operating under recognized nucleus farmers. The program is part of government's effort to boost agricultural activities, to increase food production, and enhance incomes of farmers in a move to help Ghana achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 2, which focuses on hunger eradication. However, local farmers have repeatedly complained about inaccessibility to their manure during farming seasons, while local media and civil society organizations report of a syndicate of smugglers who smuggle it through unapproved routes into neighboring countries. Based on the aforementioned, a local non-governmental organization, Community Development Alliance, CDA, with support from Advance, conducted baseline study in 2 districts in the Upper West region, namely Sisala West and Lamuse districts, to ascertain the truth or otherwise of the spurious allegation.
Smuggling of subsidized fertilizer is free for all in this district. It looks like fertilizer has a diplomatic passport because we see it being smuggled out of the country and no one stops it. So they see it's moving like nobody's business. So that is somebody's quote of how they saw the smuggling.
Executive Director of CDA, Salifu Isifu Canton, throwing more light on the baseline study, said the revelation is damning and called for a thorough audit of the program.
Whilst we commend government for taking the bold initiative to implement this policy, we however think that there are serious lapses in the implementation, which is costing the government to lose the taxpayers' money. So we think for us to be able to find out where the leakages are, we will need an audit. And that audit should be comprehensive to the regional levels. What are the quantities that have come in? To the district level, what quantities came in and who did you distribute to? Those are the critical questions that we need to address. Until we do so, it will be like we are pouring water into a leaking basket. Because you put in less outcome, you put in less outcome, you put in a less outcome. And it is because the bucket is leaking.
Mr. Canton also called for stringent measures to deal with the perpetrators of the act, including mounting surveillance on MOFA staff and some state officials who have been accused of being the masterminds behind the smuggling of the commodity.
Fertilizer was like we're producing it in the Upper West region. And you hear the political commentators saying all kinds of things about it. But that was a failing. Because the moment there is a glut, some districts didn't even have warehouses to put them. They put them in classrooms. Some at DCE's garage. Some at some obscure places. So that allowed for people to just steal it.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Oh, great report there. But it
Indeed.
also tells us that stealing is common in Ghana.
Absolutely.
It's
Public
normal.
servants there, dipping their hands in and bringing them out covered in fertilizer. This is not something that ought to be happening. We need to look more into this, especially if those involved are known, right?
Yeah, definitely. And we have more news. As we review the newspapers, Mama Viewsambwaje, Joseph Akable will be joining all of us. We'll have some great conversations around some great stories this morning. But again, let's tell you, we're here today because we're taking you to Ochimai. And we're celebrating 75 years of the passing of Nana Sefo-Wiata, the second African to be in the Legislative Council of the Gold Coast. Very instrumental.
Yes, indeed. It's a big day, a big, big day, as the Asante Kingdom joins them to celebrate. And so no doubt we'll be bringing you every single moment as it unfolds dramatically right here on the AM show and beyond. So stay exactly where you are, because you're not going to get this much detail and analysis and education from any other station, are you?
No, definitely. And you can also keep your own thoughts into the studio. We'll have a WhatsApp platform as well. But on Facebook, we're there live. You can also comment on the many other issues. Also, just worrying your mind on the various public platforms, and also that you're watching on JoyNews. And JoyNews on TV is the page on Facebook.
Yes, indeed. Now, I can't wait to get my hands on the newspapers.
Yeah, definitely.
Neither can I wait to see what Mamavi is going to be sporting this morning.
Le
Thanks to
Créateur.
Woodin. Indeed. No doubt there will be some posing right here on set.
Yeah, definitely.
I can't wait for all of that. Who was it that gave her the post of CEO of the Consolidated for? I can't wait.
I think that will be Bambakia Samed, or one of our viewers.
Indeed,
definitely.
indeed. I can't wait for our CEO to come along and tell us that God is indeed good.
Well, so we're taking ourselves away a little bit. We'll be back with the team. We'll be reviewing the newspapers up next. After that, we'll bring you the latest sports headlines. Stay with us.